Tabitha Tongoi of Craving Yellow, and Henrietta Wederero of Black Tie Events. If you missed the incredible sessions, you can watch it from Samantha's Bridal YouTube channel. So I find it very interesting that this week we have not one, but two former brides who have gone through the process of planning a wedding and have faced immense challenges, but have been able to have their dream wedding come true. So today we are here to encourage a bride to be starting the wedding planning process, that indeed, ever a time to get married, the time is now. We also have with us a powerhouse wedding planner and decor specialist, Rose, who had the privilege of planning the weddings of these two incredible ladies and has planned many other weddings during this pandemic. Here to share with us her very timely insights of how she has been able to orchestrate these weddings safely and still deliver dream weddings to many incredible brides. I think we need to mute ourselves so that any background noise, to mute ourselves so that we avoid any background noise. We need to mute ourselves kindly on the panel. Yes. So my name is Eunice Mwe. I am the founder of Julita Surprise, an event experience design and planning company based in Nairobi. I feel very honored to be moderating this panel today. Julita Surprise creates experiences through surprises, as the name says, and we specialize in alternative weddings. I'm a trained event planner, having been trained by Samantha's Bridal Wedding Members Business Academy, WMBA. I'd like now to introduce our wonderful panel. I'll start with Rose Kabebe. Rose is the CEO and founder of Equals Events, who specialize in event planning and decor services. She also hires events furniture such as tents, chairs, tables, and linens. They do big social events such as weddings, and also small events like home functions and birthday parties. Apart from social events, EcoWorld plans corporate events such as product launches, end-of-year parties, and AGMs. They have been in the industry for the last 5 years. And at this point, I'd like to ask Rose to say a few words of hello so that we can even hear her voice. Hello, Rose, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Eunice.
Hello.
Thank you for that introduction and invitation in today's meeting. I'm happy to be here. And as I meet my former brides and the Samantha fraternity, I look forward to discussing more on weddings, as in that is why I specialize, and I'm happy to be in this platform. So yeah, Rose.
Thank you very much, Rose. And now I'd like to introduce our first bride, Wambui Gakage. Wambui is a former bride who got married in a beautiful ceremony despite the pandemic. She got to plan her wedding in 2020, the year when everything changed for many of us. She'll be sharing with us how she planned her wedding during the most unprecedented year, and better yet, how she still got her dream wedding. Wambui?
Hi Eunice, hi Catherine, hi Vera, hi Rose.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. I hope while I share insights, we'll make more brides and dream weddings come true during this pandemic. Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here, Wambui, and we look forward to learning about you. Vera Vida Okeo, you have such a beautiful name. Vera is a recent bride. Her beautiful wedding ceremony took place just last weekend, guys, just last weekend, like literally a week ago. Her wedding is a true indication that there can't be light even when things are very grim. This is because her wedding took place when, as a country, we were and are still facing the third wave of the pandemic, and we are still under very restrictive measurements. So hers is a story of determination and a fairy tale come true. At this point, I'd like to invite Vera to say a few words.
Thank you, Eunice. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you
Hello,
so
Vera.
much. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so honored to be part of you, and I'm really looking forward to advising the upcoming brides and just to encourage them to continue with whatever they're planning, because this pandemic is here for some time. It's not going soon. So I'm really looking forward to have a productive conversation with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I introduce Catherine, I'd like to welcome every one of us, every one of the new participants who are joining us on YouTube. We are live on YouTube and even here on Zoom. And I'd just like to invite our attendees to make this session as conversational and as interactive as possible. So feel free to join us on the chat box and just mention your name, and if you're planning your wedding, if you're engaged, mention which stage you are. If perhaps you are just starting to plan, or you are at the point where you're almost getting married, please feel free to share with us this information on the chat box. And now, we are privileged to have Dr. Catherine Masitsa, the CEO and founder of Samantha's Bridal. Catherine, she again needs no introduction. So I'll just ask her to welcome us and say a few words.
Yes, hello everybody. Let me just check that I'm not muted. Good. So hello everyone. It's really good to host you this evening. And I just want to say that first of all the best to our brides, our two brides. I wanted to say congratulations, but you never tell brides congratulations, because you congratulate somebody when they've conquered. So you should tell brides all the best, and all the best. You've embarked on, this is the beginning of life's greatest journey, and I just want to wish you all the best in your marriages and on this journey. May you have so many amazing moments, and just may all the success in your life come with that. There's always a blessing after a wedding. And for the brides who've tuned in with their families and friends, brides to be, right now, I know because of what's happening, we understand. I just want to say that we really understand the concerns, your frustrations, and any worries you may have about planning your big day, and that we just want you to know that you're not alone. And in terms of when you're feeling this apprehension, even the uncertainty, and just that over the last couple of weeks, we've received quite a number of phone calls from everybody, just asking, so what do we do? When can we plan? All these questions, they just want to know in light of COVID-19, and especially this third wave just caught all of us by surprise. All of us in business also, we were just caught surprised because we thought, this thing was going, but now it just came back. So given that we have these restrictions in place, what we've done is adopt our services online and just be sure that we can really be of use to you and of service. So to all the future brides and grooms and your families and friends, especially the bride, we want to tell you, never ever stop dreaming. In fact, now more than ever, we want to make your dream a reality. This is completely the purpose why we are here. And we started last week, we are sharing messages just of hope and love. And that we have this online consultation. You can email us, you can DM us if you have any worries, if you need any support, if you need to be connected to any professional in the industry. We are here to help you, and that our job is really to guide you and support you during this time. So please do not feel like you have to go through this alone. We are here for you. So our best wishes from Samantha's bridal team. And if I can speak for Eunice from Unita Surprise, she worked so hard to put these together. I just want to say all the best to all the couples out there. Eunice, back to you. Back to you, Eunice.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Yes. You can hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mariam Karanja is getting married next month, 15th of next month. I just want to say, welcome. You are on the right place, and I'm very sure you're going to learn a thing. You're going to pick a thing or two from these wonderful ladies who had their wedding during this pandemic season. I'd like to encourage anyone else who'd like to introduce themselves to feel free to do so on the chat box. Now, I'd like to dive straight into the conversation, but to do so, we need to understand where we're coming from. And so with these two ladies, we have to go back to basics. We have to go back to the beginning, where they started, even up until they had their wedding. So I'd like to go straight to Wambui. Wambui, you had your wedding in the first year of the pandemic. That is in September of 2020. Allow me to ask you, was that the date that you initially wanted, or was it affected? Was it a result of postponement?
Thanks, Eunice. So I got married last year, September 19th. It was our initial date. Nothing changed for us. And yeah, despite everything, so the only thing that would have made us postpone our wedding was because the marriage, we couldn't get our marriage certificate until very late, and it only takes a month. So that's when the things were opened. That's when the courts were opened and you could start applying for your marriage certificate. That was in August. So it really allowed us to have our wedding in September. And we thank God for that, because if that was not the case, I don't know. So yeah, we were lucky enough to have that. Yeah.
But when did you start planning for the wedding?
We started planning for the wedding in March. Yeah, that's when we started to look for vendors and everything. But in March 2020, just at the peak of.
In March 2020.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just when COVID was starting and everyone was panicking, but you said we're going to get married, and you went ahead and started planning for your wedding.
Yeah. Of course, we didn't think that it should be something serious, but even if it was, we're like, better ready than not being ready at all. So yeah, that's when we started planning it.
Yes.
And at least people were still working then, and people were very helpful. Yes. They could take phone calls, and for some people canceled on us, or they were not really willing.
You need vendors.
Vendors, yes. Okay. Yeah, but we had vendors who were willing to listen and work with us, and yeah, make it possible.
Okay. Wambu, I'm curious. You started planning in March, when everything was just going haywire. What was the motivation as to why you still choose to go ahead with the wedding despite the pandemic? Did you ever consider postponement? Anything you did? And if you did not consider it, was there a reason to that?
So we decided to just go ahead because one, work from home, yay, gives you more time to just do your thing. Then because, like I said, we didn't really think in in later 2020 we'd still have the pandemic, or in 2021 we'd be going through it. So for us, it was just a leap of faith, you know, we're just like, let's do this. Let's see how things were. And even you can ask Rose. So we started this in March, but we stopped talking. Like I told Rose, yes, I'd work with her, and we stopped talking till actually the end of July. I think that's when we picked this story up again. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to go to Vera. Vera, your wedding was the most recent, and I bet the memories are still very fresh. However, your wedding, when you spoke, you told me that you started planning a while back in March of 2020, at the start of the pandemic, just as Wambui did. And just as everyone was going through the most unpredictable year. And so what made you stick to the date and even start and continue planning with so much uncertainty in the air? Vera, sorry.
Okay, thank you. One thing that was very important to us was the fact that we needed our families and our friends. And when we were planning for our wedding, we were working with around 150 people. And of course, after the last speech, it was like 30 people, you understand. So of course we went through some challenges, but we were like, okay, at least we will achieve the look that we wanted, because now it was the way I told you, it was quantity now over quality. You know, the more people, at least we cut some cost when it came to now the numbers that we were dealing with. But according to our plans and all that we had in mind, nothing much changed, because we had in mind that the pandemic was already here with us and it's not going soon. So we were like, okay, let's plan, but have another plan B with us.
Hello? Sorry, I think I had frozen there for a minute. But I hear you, Vera, you said that you started to plan and you had a plan B. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So I'd like to go back to Wambui, and we're here because we want to encourage someone that said yes, someone who is starting to plan their wedding, or is in the process of planning their wedding, or is just about to get married. And we're here to encourage them and tell them that it is still possible to have your dream wedding despite of everything that is going on around us. Wambui, in your own words, how would you describe your wedding? We want to know if it was your dream wedding. Was it everything you ever dreamed of? How was your wedding, Wambui?
My wedding was magical, to say the least. I had everything that I wanted in a wedding, of course, except the crowd, my friends and family. But when we talk about the setup, when we talk about quality food, a 4-course meal, when we talk about a Cinderella gown, when we talk about a rustic chic feel, I had all that. The MC was on point. We had a lot of dancing. It was like a small family gathering, just a bit notched up. So there was a lot of dancing, no speeches, a lot of cake. I think I got sugar high on cake. It was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. Yeah, so that was yeah. Just thinking about it, I smile. Yeah.
I think this is very encouraging to hear, because what I'm hearing is it's extremely possible to have your wedding, your dream wedding, have fun. And when we're saying it's possible, and we are encouraging one another, we're encouraging people who are planning their wedding, and we're saying that it is possible to have your dream wedding during this pandemic. And right now is actually the time to get married. Vera should share her experience. How was your wedding?
I can say my wedding was splendid. It was actually my dream wedding, because I had a very legit, vendors and all that. I look at everything from my gown to the decor. It was just fab. Yeah, it was all that I wanted. And thank God, in the evening, I was like, okay, I was just smiling because that is what I had in mind. About what I realized is that a wedding is not even the whole day. It's actually some hours. So we should always, the bride should always look at how is it gonna look when the pics are taken, because at the end of the day, the pics, your wedding pics will have the memories after the wedding is gone and all that. You'll have the memories when you're looking at the pics. You'll be like, oh, I achieved all that I wanted. So let's go back to the backdrop, how the backdrops looks and how the aisle, the designing and all that. Let's take all the numbers that you're having, the 300, let's cut the cost and put it into the way, how the place looks like and how you, the bride and the groom, look like. And I think that will give you what you want.
Rose, please unmute yourself.
I can hear you.
Yes. How does it make you feel when two brides are
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you well. I can't hear you well.
They had such an incredible time. Let me, am I the one who is frozen? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you are
breaking.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I would say, yes. Okay. Rose, I was asking, how does it make you feel when you hear two of your past brides saying that they had such an incredible time, that dream wedding came to life, and you're the person who was behind it all? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel so nice and so happy. When I remember every journey that I walked through with the two brides, starting with Vera and even Wambui, the first time when they come to you, they are looking for assurance. They are looking for someone who can execute their dream and their vision. And for me, my biggest achievement is when I'm able to understand what my brides need for their day. Once I'm able to click with them, I marry myself into their wedding and I become part of it. So when I'm executing, I know exactly the buttons to touch and what to give them. So I could tell for sure when I'm dreaming and when I'm designing anything for my bride, it's a well thought process. I don't just wake up and do it. Sometimes I have to experiment and do it prior, even when I'm not with them. And at the end of the day, also praying for them and trying to understand what is it that they want done or executed for their wedding. And at the end of the day, when I hear them talk like this, I am so happy and I feel more energized to even do more and more. And I'm encouraging other brides today, this evening, to continue planning their wedding and come to us. We are there. They are not alone. We are going to walk the journey together. Yes.
Okay. I think for our audience, I'd like to share a few photos from EcoWorld's work, just for them to have an idea what it is we are talking about today. Allow me to share my screen at this point so that everybody has an idea of, if anyone is not familiar with your work, I hope it's clear. from your end. This is not, sorry. I need to take you this. Rose, so these photos are some of your work that you have done during this pandemic, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Incredible. I just like to share this for our audience so that they get an idea of your work. Okay. I believe I have stopped sharing. Rose, you're an incredible wedding planner, and you've walked every step of the way with our brides who are here with us today. You've gone ahead and planned many weddings in the middle of the pandemic, and I think that's an incredible feat. Perhaps you could highlight the different kinds of weddings you've done during this period and how they have been different from pre-COVID weddings. Rose?
Yeah, thank you, Eunice. I'll start by saying progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change, their minds cannot change anything. So for me, what has enabled me plan this wedding, I had to undergo some internal changes to try and make sure that I'm able to incorporate the change of the new normal COVID weddings. And I've planned quite a few weddings. I'll go through a few. And I would start with Christian weddings. And Christian weddings, they are different. We have church weddings and we have garden weddings. And for garden wedding, the officiating ceremony takes place in a garden, and they are becoming more popular than before. I think people feel safe or more safe in gardens because it's more spacious, there is enough air, and they'll be able to interact freely without feeling that they are indoor and they are closed somewhere. And of course, garden wedding change. Some of the changes that I've seen is people want to be spread everywhere. You spread the chairs and you make sure that there is enough spacing between them. And with the church wedding, it's a bit restrictive because you have to follow the church protocol in terms of seating arrangement. I've done a wedding where during the first pandemic days, and this bride had a budget or was planning for 100 guests, but they could only do 15. So she went ahead and printed photos of the guests that she had invited and stuck them in all the seating arrangement in the church. So to her, they were present. She was seeing the photos around the church. I've also planned Islamic weddings. And of course, these ones, they usually have 3 weddings before they conclude the whole ceremony. And the nikah, and what I experienced the other day with nikah is they've reduced the number of men who comes in to marry off the girl. So before, it used to be the men from the clan, both clan and families. They are just choosing representatives. And the white wedding is also happening with restricted numbers. And you know, Muslims, you can't control them when it comes to dancing, but it is happening nowadays. So we end up putting more or bigger spaces in the dance floor area so that we can allow them to dance. And the henna party, again, is gone down in numbers, and some would even do without it. Customary weddings and the traditional weddings, I've also done a few. That is the coitos from the Caribbean, Ratio, and in theirs. And what I've seen change in this setup, most of the people, especially in traditional wedding, used to be old men and old women who would carry and take the process through. I've experienced a situation where these old men are recruiting young men for the fear of interacting with others. So you see now, they are trying to bring up young men who can do the job on their behalf, because most of these men past 60 years who are doing it before are fearing in going to gatherings, and even their relatives and young kids will not allow them to travel and officiate such events. And of course, civil weddings, I did one where the couple decided to go to Attorney General and they did their thing, and they just held a small party that is with the fiancé and the parents only. And we didn't have any other person in that compound. So having planned so many weddings, I think I've seen so many changes and I've become part of the change. I actually dig in to help the brides in terms of planning. Once you understand what they want and their parents want, so I'm able to incorporate my experience into what I've seen and what I've done, and I advise my brides on the way forward on what to do, who to call, and how to go about it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rose Kabibi. That was a very good breakdown. Now, I'd like to go back to Vera. Vera, your case is very interesting because you had a traditional wedding in February of this year and your white wedding in April. That's roughly a month apart. In between the traditional wedding and the white wedding, things in the country progressively got worse, to a point where some counties went into secession and stricter measures were enforced. This happened a week to your wedding, session end, and I can only imagine that this may have evoked a lot of feelings of uncertainty and perhaps even panic. What can you say, or whom can you say encouraged you to brave these waters, and what did you do to keep calm? And were you calm, Vera? Over to you.
Thank you, Eunice. Of course, you can't be calm. You can't be calm, but thanks to my hubby and my parents, both parents, they were the ones who called us on that specific day, actually on Friday. They called us and they told us, no, you can't postpone the wedding, you can't because you don't know when this pandemic will end. So they were like, okay, we continue, but let's take the measures. A week to, we had planned to have people from the village, our friends from other counties and all that, but now they were not able to come, but they were very understanding. And the only people who traveled from the village to Nairobi were my parents only, and yeah, our both parents, my parents-in-law and my parents. So they just got the permit, then they came over. But then another thing is that nowadays things are done virtually. It also helped us because people were able to at least view from their homes and all that, Yeah, so I don't think if they really missed a lot, but they got to know everything that happened and the photos and all that.
Okay. Rose, I'm sure there's a bride somewhere who wants assurance. So I'm just wondering, how can a 2021 bride be assured that you can still have the dream wedding, an amazing wedding, despite the pandemic? And what measures have you put in place at EcoWorld to ensure that this happens?
Yeah, for the 2021 brides who are preparing to get married, I would assure them this evening that they can have their dream wedding if all they believe in it. And the first thing that I would want to encourage, my advice to them, is early and good planning. Early and good planning, that means they should be able to settle on their venues as early as possible, the budget, the number of facts, and even the age group that they are inviting, and how each age group will be handled, because nowadays, as at EcoWorld events, we are even putting, we enhance more social distancing when it comes to parents and elderly. And then I would also encourage the bride to make sure that they understand their budget, because this is usually very critical, and they might be misled by not, or by listening to so many people who doesn't have experience. So I usually tell every bride, there's something that you want for, just first know what you want for your guest. You want good food, you want good decor, you want a good venue. Then contact professional service providers who can give you critical information, or who have enough access to information. Listen to them and walk your journey with them. With beautiful weddings nowadays, especially with the reduction on numbers, there are so many other ways that you can have a beautiful wedding, especially at the moment you're allowed to have few guests, even 20 or 30 or even 50. And they can still have their beautiful wedding by incorporating so much in their decor, in the food, the quality of the MC, and even the venue. I remember when I was planning Wambui's wedding, we went looking for a church background that was matching her rustic theme. And we did her reception at Safari Park. So what were we trying to achieve? We're trying to make sure that her theme matches well with the venue. Her guests feel nice when they walk to Safari Park. They have a 5-course meal, and she's happy to have her photo shoot done at Safari Park. So I still feel there's so much that 2021 brides have in place, and they should not get worried. When I talk about Vera, I don't even know whether I would finish this evening. She came in, and for her, she needed a nice walkway, good reception for her people. I remember the way we implemented the tree shades, the bamboo tree, and her wedding happened there, and she was walking like she was in you could not tell that is a Kenyan wedding. So I would encourage other brides who are planning to go ahead, and also to get vendors who are out of the box in terms of ideas. Because for us, it's not just waking up, as I said, and executing someone's wedding. You have to keep thinking, and you have to plan and design. Where do I put this, and what do I do? With the walkways nowadays, I think we've changed the way they come. We have carved walkways from good backdrop, from floral designs. And like before, we used to use so much money catering for a big number of guests. You can still bring back the resources to enhance your decor, make sure your guests are comfortable, they are sitting on a comfortable chair, they are at a nice and a beautiful tent, and the experience will be out of this world. I've also experienced weddings where we have utilized home backyards. Before, people could never thought that weddings can happen in their backyards, especially guys who are living in areas that they have enough space for land. And it has come out so well. We are within their backyard, within their house, and the wedding happens. And then we've also done hotels, indoor weddings. And like before, people kept thinking that we can only do weddings in a ground. But when you reduce the numbers, I remember there's one wedding we did at Safari Park, and I kept encouraging that bride, we can do it indoor, why not? Let's make it more classy, more cozy. And at the end of the day, she was very happy. So at EcoWorld events, I've also put in some measures, make sure that at least I'm able to attend to my clients, because I believe that is my duty and that is my responsibility. When a bride comes to me, I need to take her through, I need to guide her, I need to hold her hands, and she needs to trust me in the journey. And the only way for the bride to trust you is to be able to express or even demonstrate that you are able to do it. So availability of critical information to these brides is very important. just be generous with information, starting from whatever you do and what you don't even do, even in other category in terms of planning, in terms of food, in terms of MCs, in terms of the venues. Sanitization of our event furniture has also come in at a very serious point on our end. That is something that we are really observing. Make sure that we make our brides and our guests comfortable. Top-notch cleanness and creativity. Yeah, and creativity comes in where you are able to listen to the bride, listen, understand them, and give them what they want. And don't be rigid to what you do. Be open to ideas. Clear synergies in the making sure we've also invested in synergies to make sure that when we are planning that wedding, we are able to give enough synergies to show directions about on everything. Provision of temperature guns, flexibility in our contracts. I remember when Waboi came in, and our contract has this clause that says deposit paid is non-refundable. I had to change that for her because remember we were planning her wedding in March and it was supposed to happen all the way in September. So who knew what would be happening in September? So I had to be flexible with her. I actually told her just put in very little deposit, not even 10% of your budget, because we never know what will happen in September. So show flexibility, work with them, understand them. I'm sure they are more anxious than us because when you're planning a wedding initially, you never know what will be happening. And with COVID, you have to adapt to what is happening. So as we've adapted, and we also encouraged our MCs to have a sound effect in case where you have less than 15 guests, so that the cheering squad can be felt, the voice can be felt like we are much bigger than we are in the crowd. So those are some of the measures and flexibilities that we have we have experienced. Yeah.
Okay. Catherine, she has mentioned backyard weddings. I know that is something that is close to your heart. Yes. Rose, the planning process perhaps may have been affected because of the need to be flexible during this period. I know before the pandemic, there's usually a way that we wedding planners plan weddings. There's a process. There's the way that we do the planning. And what are you doing different during this planning process? Is there anything different that you're doing? Is the process different, and has it been affected by the pandemic?
Yeah. The planning process have changed. Unlike before, we used to tell brides, oh, you have booked a certain crowd, fine, my responsibility is just to come and do the setup and I'm done. Now we have to walk with the whole journey with the bride. We have to visit the venues just to assure them the venues adhere to the government directives and they are able to observe COVID-19 protocols. We also encourage the brides to have a guest list. That is very, very critical in today's timing. And we've even gone ahead as you're planning for these guests. We even have a guest list and seating arrangement. So if your guest number A by the name Jane is supposed to be sitting on table number 5 on a seat number 1. So they are going to find their seat there, just to make sure that we avoid changes or movement of seats. And of course, adherence to social distancing rule. So we've also gone enough ahead to make sure that before we encourage our bride to settle on such venues, on certain chairs, on certain linen, we advise them this is the best for this timing. Because if you, for example, use a rectangular table where people are facing each other, there are chances where if they talk, there will be so much maybe interactions. So we've encouraged them, especially depending with the numbers. And of course, we start working with their teams, as choosing themes that are not able, that are COVID friendly. In some instances, we even avoid napkins, we use serviettes, because there are chances where people might might touch napkins, and by the time they are touching, the next person might be touching. And the seating arrangement, of course, it's very, very, very critical. I did one wedding last year. I'll be talking so much about my experiences because that is what I do every day. I did one wedding last year, and the couple wanted all the relatives arranged in couples. If you come with your wife, if you come with your hubby, the seats are so next to each other. Then now we get some distance and we make space for the next couple. But I remember a couple of guys who came in, quite elderly, the parents and the uncles. They said, no, this can't happen. So we have to be very flexible. And I'm sure the bride didn't want that to happen, but we had to be flexible for the sake of these parents. So the planning process has quite changed. And unlike before, we were not thinking about sanitization booth, temperature guns. We were not thinking about washing hand stations, but now, right now, we have to incorporate them. And of course, the venue we are encouraging our brides to use must be COVID compliant. They must be observing the guidelines so that we are able to have seamless wedding for our brides. And for that, in that case, we don't have hinges, and it has been so successful on our end. Yeah.
I think safety is at the top of very many people, and actually every person. Safety is at the top of every person's mind at this point. And for an event to happen, we know that there are many moving parts and a lot of people involved. For the brides who are listening in, they're probably wondering how safe they and their guests would be during this wedding. So I'm just wondering, what safety measures have you put in place for your staff and other vendors? Because, as in weddings, you don't only work by yourself, you work with other people, other vendors on that day of the wedding. So what measures have you put in place as EcoWorld so that when you're interacting with other vendors and even your staff, your bride and her guests are safe, and even everyone involved is safe?
Okay, internally with our staff, we've made sure that everyone goes for COVID-19 testing that are financed by the company every 1 month, and we keep observing symptoms. So if you come in coughing or with a few signs, we send you home to go and relax and get well. And of course, making sure that everyone takes a test on COVID-19. We also encourage them to sanitization, and we equip them with sanitization kits. So these kits have a hand sanitizer, wet wipes that are alcohol-based. We give them a mask and gloves, so that anytime we are going out to execute or to do a setup, everyone must have their kit, so they won't have excuses that the venue didn't have or this didn't have. We also do fumigation after setup, and before we set down, that is before our guests, we touch or set down or pick our equipment after the wedding or after the setup, we fumigate again. We have an alcohol-based spray that we spray through our equipment, even our tentage. As you know, COVID-19 virus can stick to some of the metal surfaces and glass surfaces for more than 24 hours. So we spray before we set down. We avoid unnecessary interaction with other vendors. I said unnecessary because there are others that are so necessary and we have to keep interacting with them. And we provide a tent or space in case we are doing indoor. Every time we have a setup, we provide space just for our staff. In case you worked enough and you want to relax, you want to take a drink, you have somewhere to relax, such that you are not, our workers are not interacting and they are not seated next to the guests. Remember, we are part of the vendors, so we are not part of the invited guests, but just to make sure they are safe and everything is going on well, we set space for them after work, because we have to stay in until the wedding is done so that we can sit down and just fix anything. Chairs, we can run out of chairs and we should be in at the site to make sure that that is provided. So we cover our event throughout from morning to evening. Yeah, and we encourage our workers also to carry packed lunch. We've had some arrangement within the office where they have a nice thermos to carry their tea and other snacks, so that they avoid buying food from all the vendors outside on the road, or whoever is bringing the mama boga cooking on the side of the road. So we've also put in measures to make sure that at least whenever we are going to site, they have enough food, they have enough sanitization kit, and by that we've managed to at least cover them. I think for the last like 6 months, we only had one who tested positive, and she was able to recover, and now she's back with us. Yes.
Oh, okay. Rose, in our nature, Kenyan nature, sometimes we meet each other, and in the beginning we'll be masked up, we'll be wearing our masks, we'll be social distancing. And as we go along the way, we get comfortable with that. We get comfortable with each other, and quickly the masks go off, and everyone is, the social distancing is quickly forgotten. Somehow we just get comfortable with each other. And I just want to know, when it comes to weddings during this pandemic, and the government has said you have to social distance, you have to mask up, but then, with weddings, you have to eat at some point. There's usually a cocktail hour at some point. And I'm just wondering, has this measures affected this part of the wedding, the cocktail section, or even the times when people are supposed to be eating? And how is it that you ensure, and is it even possible to ensure that the guests are masked up all the time and they're social distancing all the time?
Yeah, that has been a challenge, and of course, the fact that we are social beings, people feel free when they are next to each other, when they are chatting, and as they continue chatting, they forget, they remove their masks and everything. So how we've been mitigating this, we work with other service providers like the MCs, so that they can keep reminding people, please, we are in COVID, we are in a pandemic era, please wear your masks. And of late, we also make sure that at the registration point, we encourage the client, the bride, to buy the mask so that everyone is given. So when you have more than two, sometimes if you misplace one, you will still be given another one. And unlike before, when we are managing our ushers, I remember in March, I did a wedding, and actually the way ushers keep walking around with envelopes, they walked with envelopes and they kept replacing the masks, because there are people who kept misplacing their masks. So we made sure that we are replacing them from our budget, just to make sure that our guests are covered. In terms of seating arrangement, we also work with the MCs to keep reminding the guests, please don't change your seating, don't move your seat, because especially families get so comfortable, and within no time, you had done a table of 5, because nowadays we are doing 50%, half of what we are doing. We're doing 10, now we do 5 per table, others 4. So when relatives get comfortable, they move chairs and you find people seated 10. So the MCs or our staff would approach them, please, and they are quite cooperative when you approach them with a lot of respect. So they are quite cooperative. Then with cocktail area, we've come up with a way to manage the cocktail. Remember, especially for garden wedding, once the wedding is done, we leave part of the family taking photos, and then the rest of the people flock in the cocktail area. But we've managed to cluster people according to age. So we have the old age above 50 go first for the cocktail. We have the middle age and the youth. And we have a separate serving point or cocktail serving point for kids. So that has worked for us. As much as it's still a challenge, you'd still see someone say, hey, my mother can't walk alone, let me be with her as she takes her cocktail. Maybe as a way of having the cocktail among the first people. But we've, at least we managed to mitigate that nicely. Same case with the food service. So we make sure that all the tables, like I have a wedding I'm doing this weekend, all the tables have numbers. And until your table number is mentioned, you're not supposed to wake up and go serve food. So that we avoid queues. And the objective here is to reduce interaction as much as possible. Make sure that people are observing social distancing. And we, after an event, we don't have more than 5 or 10 people falling sick of COVID. Yeah, so it's quite a challenge, but we are trying to do it. And the more and more people are seen as putting effort, they are complying and they are able to comply. Yeah, I can say the few times I've done that, they are complying. And of course, the synergies. You make sure that you have enough synergies that is showing people this is where we are going to do our cocktail. The toilets are here. If you want to take the reception is on this side. So people will avoid confusion and so much asking questions in terms of where do I go, where do I go? So if you mark places with synergies, it becomes much easier for you for the guests to be well guided on what they do, where they want to go at every particular time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rose. Now I'd like to go back to brides. Wambui, I'd like to ask you something, Wambui. In every situation, there's always a silver lining. And despite not having many of your family and friends, you still had a great time. So that was the silver lining. You still had a great time. How do you think this affected your wedding? The fact that you had fewer numbers, what did this mean for your wedding? And would it be different had there been pre-COVID numbers? How do you think you having such a small number affected your wedding?
So with fewer numbers, like Rose said, there's a lot more you can do with your decor. So for me, it wasn't too much on the decor, but actually maybe yes, because of the tents that I used. If I had way more people, I might have had to change the tents that I used. And of course, the tents are everything. Once you change the tents, then the setup just becomes a bit different. And I'd have probably lost the very rustic look that I was looking for. Then again, the quality of food that I wanted. In a lot of weddings, okay, personally, a lot of weddings that I've gone for, I haven't really enjoyed the food, but I loved the food in my wedding. I love the fact that we were such a small group, it was easy to handle. So what we did is we ate as a big family. The bridal party actually ate with the rest of the guests on that time. So there was no, there was very little of when you're eating and then someone has to call you to do something. So by the time that was happening, most of us were done. I'm a slow eater, so I wasn't done, but yeah. Then again, you get to, I think the planning is not, the planning of everything, there's the health, it's not too hectic with, how would I say, with the management of too many vendors, too many things getting lost into it, because it's a small knit thing. And I had a friend, Rita, who really helped with putting those things intact. And because you know everyone who's basically there, it's very easy to coordinate things, everyone, so very easy to coordinate. So the quality of the wedding becomes very, very nice. yeah, for me, it's the quality that I got, and not only because of the things that I had, but because of even the time you get to interact with each guest. You get to enjoy people more. You get to dance more. You just get to savor that amazement of the wedding. You just get to savor that moment that you would probably not. You see, if people are too many, then you'd be like, oh, hi, I didn't say hi to Nani. Did they even come? At the end of the day, you don't even know who came or who didn't. But with a small wedding, you see, you even kind of wave at them, you smile at them, you know, it's nice. So that was my silver lining. Of course, if it was before COVID, I would have a larger numbers, and I would have still loved it, but the quality that I got, that was my silver lining, actually. The quality of everything that was, and the attention to detail, the service that everyone got, because with COVID, people, at that point, people, you could not serve like a buffet. So for small things like the first few courses, the soup and the dessert, someone had personally to come and assist you. The fact that you have someone with you is a very nice touch. The one-on-one is incredible. So yeah.
Okay. Speaking of quality, I just want to address Vera. Vera, when we first spoke, you told me that for you and your spouse, quality over quantity was what you were looking for from the beginning of the wedding process. And I just want to know, even as we wind up and we are getting last time was a question to drop it on the Q&A or even on the chat as we wind up. Vera, I'd like to know, did you achieve quality that you were looking for? Because quality over quantity was something that was very deep need.
Yeah, sure. We achieved what we wanted because number one, we realized that the list of the vendors that we had, very few were like, we had to change very few things because let's talk. We have MC which cannot change. Like it can't change. It can't go with the number of people that you have. Same to photographers, and then same to how you dress up and all that. You understand? So a little change when you come to deco. That is the number of chairs and the number of tents. When we cut the cost on the number of chairs that we use, the number of tents, and the number of we replaced with whatever we wanted. That is having a nice backdrop and just the flowers and just overall it was all about deco and how the place was looking like, and how as the two of us and even my team, you know, how you look like and all that. So as for me, we did achieve what we wanted because how the place was looking like is actually what we wanted, and I think that goes to Rose. We thank you so much for being like working with us and helping us got whatever we wanted. Exactly.
Wonderful. Wambui, you have a very interest adaptability. Those are the two things that you applied severally during the course of your wedding planning. Please expand for our audience the two instances where you had to be flexible and adapt. I know this because we spoke, but I'd like you to highlight your ratio and your wedding venue so that, you know, we need to be flexible. We need to be adaptable during this period. So it would be very important to learn from someone who has had to do this before.
Okay. Thank you, Eunice. Just what I'd like to first say is during these COVID times, the most important thing is to have an open mind. So with an open mind, because you just don't know. One day, like Vera, she's having a very big fancy ratio, and then the next day you're having 30 guests. So first, an open mind. Then once you have an open mind, flexibility and just changing things comes about. So for us, we were very ready for a ratio in July. But as you know, July 2020 was when we had our first cessation, was when we were at a no social gathering. Yeah. So meaning, and the Rurasho, our Rurasho was supposed to be out of town, out of Nairobi rather, meaning my husband and I cannot even travel. There's no social gathering, so there's no arguing with the government about that. So that just went out of the line. And then what also flexibility comes about and all that, and is because of your family and the support you get from your friends.
Sorry to cut you off. What you're trying to say is you did not have a Rurasho.
Yes, I did have a Rurasho. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What we got from our conversation was that your dad, your father, and his father, they spoke. Yeah. They said, "We have given you your blessing. We have given you our blessings. Go ahead with the wedding. You don't need to do a Rurasho."
Yes. They said we can do the Rurasho after, and for a very traditional, because my father is he's very big on tradition, and that was just a blessing, you know, for two old men who really value tradition and they value it to just say, you know what, we understand, it's fine. You guys can just go ahead with your white wedding. We will do the Rurasho when we can and when the Nini is at a better place. So for us, that was nice. So with that, it kind of gave us a rest. It made us relax, you know, because that's the same point where they said, do not cancel your wedding, go ahead with your wedding. If no matter how many people it is, that's fine. Even if it's the point that it's just you guys and the person who needs to make it happen, then it's fine. And that's what we did. That's what we went ahead with. And months on, so in August, we were given the president gave a go ahead of 15 packs for the wedding, and that's how we had. So because most gardens were still shut down, including the one that we had, I was here calling Rose that I have no idea where we can do this. What do I do? And Rose is like, you can find pounds. And she gave me a few suggestions. However, some were a bit far and others were really not on our budget range, you know. So we sat down, we brainstormed, and she's like, you know what? There are hotels that are open. So we checked out hotels. I checked out a few hotels, and that's how we landed to Safari Park. So because it's a hotel, of course, there are vendors I have to cancel. My catering vendor, I had to get rid of her. Okay, not get rid of her, but you understand what I mean, yeah? And she was very, very understanding. Yes. She was super understanding, and she was like, yes, I understand, it's okay. And yeah, and because she was actually the same person who did my wedding, she came for my wedding, and she was really, really, really happy for us. So yeah, that's another thing. During this time, I also ask that vendors can be understanding, because some vendors really aren't. You can imagine if my caterer decided no, because you've done this and it's a few weeks to the wedding, that's my deposit, I'm keeping it. That would have been crazy for us. Like, it would have been a bit wrecking, you know. Yeah. So that's for me, what I can say is keep an open mind. Pray about it, you know. I hope people do get support from their friends and their family, because that was a very, very big factor in having this flexibility. Yeah, that's it.
Vera, you are in a very unique situation, because last year, when the pandemic was beginning or was starting, we thought it would not last long. We thought it was just a matter of weeks and we'd be back to our normal lives. But it's March and we're in April right now, and things are almost similar to last year. And last year, this time, you were planning, or you were starting to plan your wedding. So I'm curious, what would you tell someone who is at the same situation that you were a year ago?
Okay, thank you, Eunice.
Vera?
Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, yeah. I would like to advise the upcoming brides not to postpone their wedding because most of the planning you do, okay, start early. Then most of the plannings you do, have an open mind. As Wambui said, have an open mind and be ready to stretch yourself, just in case of anything, be flexible. And then another thing is that have legit vendors. This one, I think this can also help you really, really much because when you have a vendor who is really into whatever you are doing, not really into your money, they will really help you to journey even through all that, the situation and all that, whatever is coming up and all that. Like Rose literally called me on that Friday. He called me and told me, by the way, she called me and told me, and she was like, okay, I understand whatever you are going through right now, but just be calm, don't postpone the wedding. We will journey with you, we will deliver whatever we want, but we will work now with the number that is currently granted to us. So I got a little bit easy when she told me that, because I was like, okay, we've paid money, we've paid these people, and are they really going to give us back the money? Yeah, and all that, you understand? It was so confusing, but when you have legit vendors, it will really be a little bit easy dealing with them and just them telling you what to do and going through with you all the journey. So have a legit vendor, and then also do not forget to pray. Yeah, in every situation, of course, don't forget to pray, because anything can happen. Last year, you remember, there was a point where the weddings were not allowed, at least with us. 30 or 15 people were allowed to attend a wedding, but last year I think something happened and all that. Such situations, you have to at least involve God in your planning and all that. And of course, the way I've said, start early so that you don't get so much confusion in between. Thank you.
Are in that process at that beginning stage, even as they start early the planning process. Rose, I'd like to ask you a question. Use the microphone.
Can't hear you.
Microphone.
Can't hear you.
There's someone who needs to mute the microphone. You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
How about now?
I can hear you.
How about you can hear me?
Yes, I can
Rose,
hear you.
I was asking, because we are encouraging brides to start planning early, and because we are living in a situation where you really don't know tomorrow, have you encountered for weddings that are weeks away? So plan B basically, and how did you do this?
Yeah. I've had one wedding last year in November, and we started, we got in touch with this bride early last year, that was in February. And when COVID happened, they postponed everything and they said, we are not going to have this wedding. Then later she comes and tells me, I think we can have it in May. Then May, everything worsens, and she's like, how do I even do my wedding with 15 people? And in November, I'm busy planning my schedule with other things. And in 2 weeks' time, she comes back and she says, I think we've overcome this fear and we are going to do this wedding. So we did it in a rush. That was 2 weeks. Of course, we had prior discussions and we knew what we wanted to put in for her decor and for her wedding. But some things that she required in terms of her backdrop, walkways had to be done in a very short time. And with flexibility, we were able to plan it, and we did it, and it happened so well. So as Vera and Wamboi are saying, flexibility even among vendors is key, because they're also going through things that they've never gone through before. They've never planned a wedding. And weddings are not just controlled by the bride and the groom. The parents have to be consulted, sometimes friends. And when they make decision within 2 weeks, you should be there to help them and be flexible enough to at least make sure it happens. And that is what we call in passion, not looking for money. If you're in service industry and you're looking for money, I think those are two different things. So it's service and passion for your work. So it happened to me, and we executed well, and it went well. Back to you, Eunice.
Yes. Even as we close, Rose, I'd like to know, there are probably some brides who would like to weddings out of, say, Nairobi, for example. Is it something that you have been doing in the times that the situation was not there? And were you doing differently, destination weddings?
Yeah, before destinations wedding, we were doing, they were quite, they come with their own challenges, but with COVID, there are more challenges to that. I remember when we did one wedding in Meru last year, December, and the first thing that we went through the logistic issues. You have to be very careful with the logistic issues, because remember, we are carrying everything from our office. Our office is in Karen, so we are moving or traveling all the way from Nairobi to Meru. So transport costs have gone high, and even the capacity for our vans and PSV cars have changed. So unlike before, a 13-seater matatu right now, it's doing 8-seater. So the fares have gone high. We also got a bit of challenges with accommodation, because remember, when hotels were closed down, there are very few that managed to come back. So the few that are surviving have become also very, very, very expensive. And I remember we had to cover some long distance for us to get accommodation, somewhere that we can even sleep and get some even good food. So, and of course, the running costs has also gone high. And the financial power to our clients has also gone low, because remember, these are the same brides who are working for big institutions, and some of them had to be maybe laid off, and they still want this wedding. So we had to be very, very, very flexible. Like when you're going to up country, we advise them maybe we can do a bit of artificial flowers, and maybe to the critical parts we can do live flowers to help marry in their budget and to ease the logistics and the planning process. So destination weddings are quite good. It's the way to go for the brides who want it done. It can be done, but the planning has to be done well, and you have to be very, very honest with your vendors, with your clients, and also with your vendors, so that you can have a very clean plate when you're starting to plan the wedding from the beginning. Yes.
Okay. So I think we are going to wind up from here, but it's 8:30. But before we wind up, there's a question that came in for Rose from Nicole Nazoe. She asks, has any event that Rose has ever planned during the been shut down? And if so, what was the issue? And Rose?
Thank you. I've not done any wedding that was shut down. during COVID. Actually, all my events have gone through. As I said in the beginning, I go ahead to even ask even the venue owners, are you sure that you covered or you are adhering to COVID-19 procedures? So that it's not just for me to be paid, it's make sure that even that wedding is a success. For me, when the wedding is a success, that is when I feel I've done my job. Like those who do their wedding around Karen, most of the crowds, I know them. Kiambu Road, I've been in this industry for the last 5 years. And the fact that I do weddings daily, hardly would I even find one or two venues that I've not interacted with. So, and if I have not, I go ahead talking to the venue owners, maybe even to the area OCS, and inform them. Like for Vera, I know I talked to OCS Karen and I told her, we are doing this wedding and we need your coverage. Behind their back, you may not even tell them that you're doing that. And if you find it's risky, please and advise your bride as early as possible. So avoid that shame of you pulled out of the wedding because maybe the protocols or you did not follow the right procedures. So I've not had any that was cancelled or that was disbanded at the last minute. I've not had any.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another question that has come in from Miriam Karanja, the lady who is having her wedding next month. She asks, and I think I'll throw this to Rose. I need some advice about the 30 packs. How are authorities counting that number? Are they counting the vendors? Please advise.
The authorities, especially the one I'm doing this weekend, how we went about it is they excluded the people who are in the event, the service providers, like the people who are doing decor and furniture. At one point, they will do their work and leave. They will not be part of the 30 packs. But people who are giving services like the DJ and the MC who have to be with you throughout the event is among the 30 packs. However, with their permission, there are exceptions if you ask them and inform them. Can we have then the 32 number or the two extra people, the MC and the DJ, as number 31 and 32? And that is not, I've seen it's not a very hard knuckle to touch, and they are allowing that. But for the rest of the people who are giving services, the waiters, the caterers, are not part of the 30 packs. Because if you put in caterer, especially who have like 15 vendors, that means you only have 10 guests, and you have 5 people who are doing your decor. Then basically 80% of your wedding will be vendors. So with consultation with the authorities, the 30 packs are passing as your invited guests. That is my experience.
Okay. Miriam, I hope that has answered your question. And so I'd like us to close in the next 2 minutes. And before we do that, I'd like to recognize some people who have joined us on YouTube, so that I give our panelists some time to prepare for their closing remarks. We started by saying that it is a good time to get married. So in our closing remarks, I'd like us to answer that question. Why is it a good time to get married? For Wambui, Vera, Rose, and even Catherine. So very quickly, I'd like to recognize Joseph Ochola, who says, it's glad to be here, looking forward to fruitful discussion. I hope this was fruitful. Joy of events is Millicent Etienne, glad to be here. Adriana, she says all the best to the couples. And Marion of Majestic Events, she says she totally agrees. Show flexibility as a supplier and a planner. And she also says, Rose Kabebe, well done. It is at this point that I'd like to introduce our panelists to give their closing remarks. And I think I'll start with Vera, okay? We'll go on to Wambui, Rose, and finally we'll have Catherine closing for us. And before we close, we're having these sessions every Wednesday for the unforeseeable future. We're having these sessions every Wednesday at 7 to 8, and we are having these conversations because we realize it's very important for brides to feel encouraged during this period. So please join us next week on Wednesday. We'll be having Tandy events, Terry Mugo of Tandy events. Please share with your networks and ask them to join us next week on Wednesday. So I'll ask Vera to give her closing remarks on Bui and Rose, and then Kathleen will close for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eunice. Just to say something on just to go back on what I said, a small wedding will give you the look that you have been having in your mind. I guess every bride, they say every lady has that, you know, they visualize how their wedding will be even before they're engaged. Yeah, having a small wedding will get you whatever you want, yani the look of the place, how the flowers will look like and all that. So it's actually the at this time, it's actually the appropriate time to get that exact thing that you wanted. The small thing, but with a lot of quality stuff and some nice food, you know, the small thing and the quality and all that. So for me, it's all about the quality and how the place looks like.
Okay. Wambui?
For me is go ahead with your wedding. Your wedding is more about you and your husband. It's more about your afterlife, and it's not the people. Yes, the people is nice. If you get to have that, then that's a plus. But if you really want a marriage, then just go ahead with it. Make the best of what you have. Because we might be here saying that you are saving, we might be here saying that, yes, a small wedding, you'll have the pluses or not. Sometimes you don't even have that money for those pluses, you know. But with what you have and the things that you have, just go ahead with the wedding, put God in it, have faith. Because I remember like I said, for us, the everything was closed down. There were no social gatherings, there was nothing. But a month to it, everything changed. So just continue planning, have faith, have support. Remember the people who supported you through this process. Trust me, they will not be many, but they will be your lifeline. So yes, and thank you for everyone who made our wedding possible. Thank you for my friends who are there. I've seen them commenting and supporting. Thank you for Rose. Thank you for my parents and everyone who was there during that support. It's really, really important for you to support people during this time. You have no idea how hard it is for them, how hard whatever they're going through. It's hard, but with the right support, yeah, they have their wedding of their dreams, and it's something so small but so huge. So thank you for also making me part of this panelist. I really enjoyed this.
Asante.
Wow, for me, please continue and go ahead with your weddings. We are here to take care of you. We will walk with you from day one to the last. We are going to cover your back. It is an opportunity to make your wedding more classy, more cozy, and also have the most important friends around you. Continue with your wedding. Just plan and go ahead. You never know how long this COVID will stay with us. Let's proceed with our weddings, and we are here to take care of you. Thank you.
I suppose that's it's amazing. Like listening to the couples, to the brides, how you're really brave girls. You are really brave, because some people may start out, they want the small wedding, but you are forced into these circumstances. Like you miss your ratio, one boy, Vera, you know, you overnight you have to change everything. That is quite something, and that is a sign of strength. And I always say that the people who want to get married, who really want the marriage, will get married now. But the people, I'm not saying everyone is showing off. Of course, everybody is allowed to have their decisions and all that. But I think so that the couples who are choosing to get married now, irrespective of, I think it's such strength of character. And they want to get married. And I think those marriages will really last. I'm not saying the others will not, but these ones will really last, because you want to get married. And it's about the day. But also what I pick out is that you really have, another reason why it's really nice to get married now, because then you can invest in the things that matter. You know, I look at the images that are being generated out of the weddings that are happening. My goodness, they are just amazing. It means you can invest in those things that you've been dreaming about. A beautiful backdrop for your photograph, a really good photographer. You can afford to pay a good photographer, a good suppliers, an amazing dress. You can, if you're, you can just toast to champagne or prosecco, not, you know, copies of anything. You can have amazing food. You can just invest in those things that really matter. And I think you're gonna be, I think I know it, you're gonna be making history. Something to show to your great-grandchildren. We got married during a pandemic. Remember that? Maybe the next pandemic that is coming is in 100 years. It is historical. You know, we are going back to the 1900s. I think it was the Spanish flu, and we are struggling to get some of the photos. We hope the next pandemic is in another 100 years, because who could have imagined? Vera, would you have imagined your wedding is happening during this, in a pandemic? You will write a book about it. So you're one boy. But I see amazing photos that that came out, the fact that you're able to really interact with people who are there. And in the future, we're gonna, for the viewers who are watching us, in the future, we're going to be bringing you ideas on what you can do to really engage people who are at home. And I know Eunice said we're going to have Tandy. Kimari is going to be coming very soon, and he has amazing, amazing, amazing ideas on how you can really engage the people who are not able to come, because it's so important. And one boy, I like what you said, that really please support the couple. This is a difficult decision. It is so difficult. Rose, wow, I see your corporate life, your customer service, corporate life really has filtered into what you already do. You really understand your clients. I like the way you support them, the fact that you're flexible. And Vera mentioned something about legit suppliers. And that's what Samantha's Bridal is about. We only work with legit suppliers. And Rose is as legit as they come. She will make you look good. Actually, before I close, please allow me, if I can, to share some of her work. I hope it will, you know, we would have loved, Eunice, I think the files got corrupted, but we would have loved to see, that is some of Rose's work. Eunice had worked on a slide to show some of Rose's work. But I think the file got corrupted, and I just want, Rose does an amazing, amazing job. Look at that. I hope the slides are changing. Are they changing, Rose?
Yeah, they're changing.
Wow, maybe you can walk us through, if I'm on a photo that you'd like to say something about, you can tell us. You want to talk about this one?
I designed this for a bride who we did her wedding on 28th of March at Current Country Lounge. And all she wanted is a nice photo booth. So, and she loved it. I'm sure if she was here, she would say, actually, when she texted me, she told me, you nailed it, and I love my photo booth. Yeah. And I think I love all my creatives, and my brides love them also. I create them with a lot of love.
Wow, where is this?
Safari Park.
Wow, I can hardly tell. It's so beautiful. These are a lot of flowers.
Yes, yes.
Wow. Yeah, if I'm on a photo that really resonates, has an amazing story, I think this one you can just talk about it. You just stop me, and we can talk about it. That is amazing. Also, I like that.
Centerpieces.
Yeah, you can see that some of them are before COVID. Eh?
They are all during COVID.
All of these are during COVID.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. You see, people are actually having beautiful events. So look at that. Wait, which venue is this?
Windsor.
This is Windsor. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I can hardly even tell. It's beautiful. Wow, this is nice. You can say something, the ones you feel you want to talk about. Yeah.
I have so much special stories about everything I do.
I know. You know what we should do, Rose? We should just have another one. When you're talking, I think that one we've seen, when we are just talking about, I love this, so simple.
What was the planning behind this, the thought behind this? And I think you picked a few that were just recent.
Yeah, this
go to the next. The next one we need to have Vera's walkway down there. I don't know.
It was which one is that? This is you're busy.
Go ahead.
Wow, that's nice.
Oh, matumepita. Yeah, that one. That's Vera's walkway. But edited a bit, we added a bit of red in burgundy in her wedding.
Look at that.
Thank you.
That's a different one. I think, let me stop sharing. Yeah. So that is amazing. Rose, I think one day me and you should just sit and just have an orgy of photos, looking at those photos, and we just, because they're all so beautiful, such an amazing one. And to see that you're transitioned completely from a scientific world to an artistic world, it's amazing. It's amazing, yeah. So I think so that thank you everybody for joining us. And Eunice, back to you. Eunice, I see as we are still getting Eunice, I saw there's a guy here. Eunice, you delayed a bit, so you will allow me. Oscar Okumu is saying it has been a fruitful discussion and wishing the couples all the best. Thank you so much for the session. It's very important even for us who are already married. Yeah, you know, you could always have, it's entertaining in itself, just to broaden your view on how things happen. Eunice, back to you.
My internet connection is very poor at this point, but at this point, I'd just like to say thank you so very much for all our panelists, for all our attendees who have been able to join us on Zoom, on YouTube, and even those who will watch later on. And I'd like to invite each and every one of us next week on Wednesday, same time. Thank you very much and have a good night.